I knew that I was queer from a very young age.
Queer young people have more self-knowledge through self-discovery.
We are one small link in the chain of the history of this community.
My goal is that people remember what happened here.
Young people are transforming what the world can be for queer folk.
I'm Frank DiLella. Thanks for joining me as NY1 celebrates Pride. It's been 55 years since the Stonewall riots that ignited the fight for equal rights in the LGBTQ+ community. While much has changed over the last 5+ decades, there's still a long way to go, especially in the face of growing divisiveness across much of the nation and the world. But in unity, we can overcome great challenges. And in that vein, Pride organizers have chosen Reflect, Empower, Unite as the theme for this year's Pride celebrations, including the Big Pride March. Our Rocco Vertuccio reflects on its history and the people it has brought together.
We get these wonderful stories of people telling us they met their spouses at the march, or that's how they celebrate their anniversary. So it's really special.
The city's annual Pride March was among the first Pride marches in the country when it started in 1970. 54 years later, the march still celebrates a first.
We go by the motto, it's always somebody's first Pride, right? And when you look at it through that lens, the commitment is, how do we optimize that experience for that first-time person? We draw upon our own experience and say, I remember how it felt to go to a march or a parade that was specifically dedicated to me. You look at this.
Sandra Perez is the executive director of Heritage of Pride, or NYC Pride, as it's also known. It's the not-for-profit that organizes the march and all of the city's Pride Month events, along with year-round programs to improve the lives of LGBTQ New Yorkers. We caught up with them during final Pride Month preparations.
Describe these final few days and hours.
I would describe it as controlled chaos.
NYC Pride works year-round planning the city's Pride celebration. The group does have a small paid staff, but most of NYC Pride is made up of volunteers, thousands of people who devote their time to the organization.
Without them, there would be no Pride. Our volunteers come from all over the country. We have some people who take their week of vacation so that they can donate it to be with us and to give back to the community. So that's pretty incredible to me.
Perez joined the group 3 years ago.
I love doing mission work. The mission of this organization is so compelling, to celebrate, educate, and commemorate LGBTQIA+ people. And also I'm a native New Yorker, so this is also my chance to give back. Having to raise funds from scratch every year is daunting because opinions change, people come and go. But by appealing to our members, asking the community to consider how they can give back to others, that's one of the ways that we are kind of fighting against the shortfalls that we experience. We also have some very good corporate partners that have been with us for a long time, and we appreciate their allyship.
As the march celebrates its 54th anniversary, NYC Pride celebrating its own anniversary. The group was founded 40 years ago. In 1984, it took over planning Pride from the group that started it all, the Christopher Street Liberation Day Committee. The committee organized the first march in 1970, a year after the Stonewall riots sparked what would become the modern LGBTQ rights movement.
So 40 years of NYC Pride, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's about upholding the legacy that was started by other people. Recognizing that, we are one small link in the chain of the history of this community.
That legacy and history that started with the Stonewall riots is what Perez says is always on their minds when they plan Pride Month. Not just the march, but also events like a youth pride for teenagers.
We want them to feel special and included.
As much as the month is a time to celebrate the progress made in the LGBTQ community's fight for equality, including major milestones like the legalization of same-sex marriage, it's also a time to recognize more work needs to be done.
It's wonderful to celebrate, We do so because we understand that visibility matters, right? It's not just a party, but this is also an opportunity to say, you know, for all the joy, there is also a lot of pain. There are also young people and families that are under attack, who can't access health care, books that are being banned.
That's why the fight continues for NYC Pride. This year's Pride being celebrated while LGBTQ rights are under attack in many states all across the country.
It is some scary stuff. Most of it is failing, and we forget that, but the intent to erase us is very real.
Even though New York is different, right? But still.
We'd like to think it's different, but we have hate crimes here. We still see Black trans women, you know, with the highest mortality rates. So yeah, there's still a lot of work, you know, until all of us are liberated and enjoying equality. There is work to do.
Work that will likely be carried on by some of those first-time Priders and other young people who join NYC Pride every year.
This year, in addition to our Grand Marshals, we are dedicating our float to young people. So we will be pulling young leaders and advocates from throughout the city, and we will be featuring them on the float and really celebrating that next generation of leadership.
So very important, the leaders of tomorrow, keeping up the fight for equality and protecting the strides already made. And their work comes as more Americans are now coming out as members of the LGBTQ+ community. A 2023 Gallup survey found a 2% jump in the number of adults who now identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or other in the last 4 years, up to 7.6%. Researchers tying the increase to aging millennials and members of Gen Z. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Ahead, we'll visit the Hedrick Martin Institute, an organization that's opened its arms to all young people in need of a safe and supportive environment.
This place helped me figure myself out in many ways, not just my identity, but like helped me figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
Welcome back to Proud Legacy. I'm Frank DiLella. Finding a support system can be a struggle for young members of the LGBTQ+ community. They're still sorting out their roles in this often divisive world, and those lacking support from parents or friends may also be faced with some huge life challenges. According to the Trevor Project, 28% of LGBTQ+ youth have reported experiencing homelessness or housing instability, which often leads to mental health issues like depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts. For 45 years now, the Hedrick Martin Institute has been working on offering a safety net, providing counseling, food, housing, job training, and more to young New Yorkers between the ages of 13 and 24. Some even calling it their safe haven. Stef Manisero takes a look at their efforts.
This is my old locker right over here. No, it's 76, 76, 76. Oh, this one got stickers on it. Somebody else is using it now.
It's been years since Jazzy Jonathan Alejandro slammed that locker shut and graduated high school. To be back all this time later,
It's nostalgic because I grew up here. You know, in my adolescence into my adulthood, this was like my home.
the feeling's similar for Frank DiLella.
It is a warmth that I felt when I first walked in as a 19-year-old, and it's the same warmth that I feel when I walk in now at 31.
The Hedrick Martin Institute, or HMI, has served as a safe haven in New York City for thousands of LGBTQ youth, a place to come for a meal, or clothing, or a conversation.
Queer young people who are seeking safety, that need crisis intervention support, but also young people who are just looking to make friends and find community.
The center was founded in 1979 out of necessity.
There was a 15-year-old boy, a young person who was in an emergency shelter, who was bullied in the emergency shelter, sexually assaulted, kicked out of the shelter for being gay.
Emery Hetrick and Damian Martin, two community activists, rallied a group together to help the teen. When they were inundated by other young people also looking for help, they decided to create a drop-in center, the world's first youth services organization for LGBTQ young people.
We talk about mental health, we talk about sex ed and HIV prevention and all the things that HMI does, but when you're walking around, you see young people making art in our open art studio, you see young people dancing in our Kiki Lounge.
This Pride Month, HMI is celebrating 45 years of simply being there.
Queer young people have more self-knowledge than your average person, right? Like they have to figure out who they are on their own through cognitive dissonance, through self-discovery, bravery, confronting all kinds of myths about what it means to be queer.
I knew that I was queer from a very young age, and I told myself, okay, you're queer at age 14.
Frank says understanding it himself was only the first part of his coming out journey. Step 2, he says, was finding a community.
Even at 14, I was asking myself, I know I'm queer, but will I be able to find a job? Will I be able to, make connections with people, real connections?
Growing up in Peru, a predominantly Catholic country, those connections weren't easy to find. When he moved to the city at 19, he found HMI.
And I remember the first thing that was asking me was, how are you? The second thing that was asking me was, are you hungry? How are you feeling? Do you need anything?
I remember applying for college right here with Jennifer London, and I didn't even think I could go to college. Like, I was like, college for me? Nah.
Born in the Bronx, Jazzy was going to school on the Upper West Side when he first learned about HMI. He ended up transferring to Harvey Milk High School, which shares a space with HMI and is the only public high school in the city designed specifically for LGBTQ students.
I got to pour into myself while I was here in so many ways that I blossomed and I bloomed, and I couldn't do that back up in the Bronx where I came from.
He says it took his family some time to understand.
I don't think they liked it at first. I come from a traditionally Latin family, old school, but I was meant to teach them. I was meant to help them learn.
Being back now is a reminder of how far he's come. Also, of the people he met here, no longer here.
In life, we really have to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first, and I don't think a lot of people got to do that because they didn't get to grow to do that. They were either in danger or they were, the hate crimes that was going on, or just different. There was different situations. I miss a lot of people that once were.
Deteriorating mental health is an issue plaguing adolescents all across the country. A nationwide survey by the Trevor Project found 39% of LGBTQ young people seriously considered attempting suicide last year. 12% did try.
All of the attacks that are happening to queer people around the world, really, but nationally, a lot of that also affects someone who lives here in a supposedly safe haven. You read the news or you look at tweets that are extremely negative, and it really makes you wonder whether you belong to the world or not.
To help, HMI has tripled the size of its counseling department since 2020. Jazzy says it was those conversations at HMI, including when he found out he was HIV positive, that taught him he didn't have to make sacrifices.
I didn't want to not be a parent. I didn't want to not live. I didn't want to not do things because HIV or being queer was like strikes against me. I wanted to be able to be all I could be and more. I had this big mind that I could be like, bigger than a superhero, but I'm working on it.
Today, he is working to be that superhero for others as an outreach coordinator at the new Pride Agenda, an advocacy group focusing on LGBTQ health and human services. Frank, meanwhile, is a community liaison to New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams, covering LGBTQ affairs, work they both say they were drawn to because of the care they were met with within these walls.
I wanted to be able to make people feel that same way.
It's a fun and joyful place. Young people are not only transforming themselves through their interests and discovering who they are and what they can be, but they're changing what the world can be for queer folk.
And to find out more how you can get involved, check out the Hetrick Martin website at hmi.org. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Ahead, it's a small space with a big mission. The new Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center is a labor of love, 6 years in the making. And we'll meet one of the women behind the multi-million-dollar project. You may recognize the names of some of her famous partners.
My goal is that people remember what happened here. 55 years is a very long time.
Charlie was a young, gender nonconforming person who we know about through newspaper articles that were written about them at the time. Charlie was arrested for wearing men's clothes, basically.
In the 1850s, cross-dressing was a crime in New York City. In this case, Charlie, last name unknown, was tried at what is now the Seward Park Educational Campus. According to the New York Times, Charlie was charged with being a vagrant, pled not guilty, but was sentenced to 2 months in prison. This story is part of the Queer History Walking Tour on the Lower East Side. The tour is a great way to connect with some lesser-known LGBTQ+ history. Check it out on the Henry Street website. Our Proud Legacy special continues with a name change for a popular subway stop. The state legislature approved a bill to create the Christopher Street Stonewall National Monument Station. It's meant to recognize the more than 5 decades of the modern LGBTQ+ movement. The station sits at Christopher Street and 7th Avenue in Greenwich Village. State Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel sponsored the bill and said it's meant to inspire New Yorkers to demand justice and equality for all. Steps away from Stonewall, there is now a new visitor center. It's part of the National Park System, and it was created by 2 women determined to preserve the past for generations to come. I recently got to check out the new space firsthand. If these walls could talk, what stories they would tell. Welcome to the brand new Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center. We are sitting in a sacred space.
What I have found out in working on this project for 6 years is that I think our knowledge of Stonewall is very linear, and it's really quite broad. I don't think a lot of people know that this is part of the original bar. So the significance of the space, to bring it back to the community, to have it be a part of something so significant as the first LGBTQ visitor center within the National Park Service, that's really cool. This is very urban and very queer, and I think when people think national parks, they don't think this, but that matters. That now when people think of the national parks, they might think of us. They might think that the national parks is more diverse than it ever has been.
The location of the center marks the birthplace of the gay rights movement. On June 28, 1969, the Stonewall Inn was raided by cops. But on that historic night, members from the gay community fought back. And they continue to fight for their rights to this very day. Pride Live co-founder Diana Rodriguez spearheaded the creation of the center alongside her work and life partner Anne-Marie Gothard. The Haven is located directly next door to the current Stonewall Bar and carries a mission to preserve LGBTQ+ history. I can't help not look at the wall and see these amazing names, pioneers, torchbearers from our community. You know, this is a space to honor those whose shoulders we stand on.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like so many others, when I thought about Stonewall, I knew 2 names, Sylvia and Marcia.
Sylvia Rivera
and Marcia, yes, P. Johnson. And I think part of my learning experience during this whole process has been there are so many other names that all of us should know that had never really received their accurate due. And so if you look at some of the panels, we print out those names.
And speaking of paying tribute to the unsung heroes, here we are at the beginning of the wall in this beautiful visitor center.
Yep.
I see your name, Diana Rodriguez, at the beginning of the wall, and I see a picture of a young soldier. What's the significance of this?
So it's extremely significant. That picture is of my Uncle Tony. My Uncle Tony served in Vietnam in combat. He came back very ill, like so many, but he still felt that he could serve, so he went to work at the Veterans Administration here in the city. And he was just that amazing guy. He was a deacon in his church, a leader in the community. And when he died of AIDS, no one came to his funeral from his military unit or his job. So that was the late 80s when, AIDS was right outside these doors, devastating an entire community. So with permission from my family, this is the flag that was on his coffin when he passed. These are his medals, those are his dog tags, and we are just paying tribute to a generation that all of us lost to AIDS.
The center receives support and funding from some well-known LGBT+ music allies and icons like Madonna, Christina Aguilera, Elton John, and Adam Lambert. And yes, music happens to be an integral part of the permanent exhibition. There is a jukebox here, which is so important, thinking back to Stonewall and that amazing dance music that we got to hear.
Yeah.
I love that all the tunes that are programmed for the jukebox are songs that you would have played or heard during that time.
So music, very important to our community now, very important to our community back then. This is actually a replica of the jukebox that was playing, as we like to say, the time of Stonewall. So this is a 1967 Row AMI. There are 100 vinyl 45s in there.
Amazing.
And folks who come visit can take one of these tokens and play a record.
Shall we do it?
Go for it.
All right. This is old school, I love it. Let's see. You know what this reminds me of? Speaking of that time, the boys in the band.
Yeah, again.
You know, how all the boys are dancing to this.
What? Don't dream this, Ari. Go! It's the sensational menstruation!
How are you going to celebrate Pride this year?
I'm very excited for just everyone to come in and visit and to give us their feedback. And then we are going to be open again that weekend. And then, not joking, I'm taking a long time off because we've been awake for a long time, but it has been well worth it.
After building this space and paying tribute to so many leaders in our community, a well-deserved vacation. Diana and Anne-Marie wanted to make sure generational voices were reflected at the center, so they partnered with the new school. As part of an elective, students will be creating content, sharing their voices and experiences within the LGBTQ+ community. And their work will be part of a rotating exhibit at Pride Live. That wraps up our Proud Legacy special. I want to thank our contributors for sitting down with us and sharing their stories. I'm Frank DiLella. Happy Pride.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your community, click the subscribe button here. You can also download the Spectrum News app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.